Life frequently unfolds in unexpected ways. I possess a tale that I have kept close to my heart, for it is woven with complexity. Have you ever felt the thrill of walking a fine line between right and wrong? Not out of choice, but because of the twists and turns life has thrown your way. On that particular day, I felt as though the universe had a twisted sense of humor, and I was the unwitting star of its playful mockery. It all began on a seemingly ordinary Saturday afternoon. I found myself immersed in the ordinary, where nothing remarkable unfolded. On a leisurely weekend, I found myself immersed in household chores, the gentle hum of the dryer my only companion. As I rummaged through my closet, sifting through the treasures and trinkets of the past, I stumbled upon an old mini-skirt, a relic of days gone by. Though I no longer don those garments, I felt I had moved beyond that chapter of my life. Yet, as I grasped the skirt, a flood of memories came rushing back. It was a remnant of my younger days, a period when assurance flowed naturally and existence centered on pleasure and freedom. In a moment of spontaneity, I found myself drawn to it and gently slipped into its embrace. With a heart full of uncertainty, I approached the mirror, only to find myself stifling a laugh at the way the fabric embraced my form, highlighting both the bits I wished to hide and those I might just celebrate. As I was merely exploring to see if it would suit, a gentle tap at the door caught my attention. Who might it be? I whispered softly to myself. My hair was a wild tangle, a chaotic dance of strands. I was not dressed to leave a mark, nor was I expecting anyone's presence when I opened the door. There he was, my dear nephew, standing before me. Jason had stepped beyond the bounds of childhood. He had grown into himself. At 22, he was full of vigor. With broad shoulders and an undeniable presence. He was the kind of person who could walk into a room and command the attention of everyone within it. With a bag of tools in hand, he wore his ever-present, easy smile, a testament to his laid-back charm. Dear Auntie, you reached out about the troublesome leaky faucet, didn't you? It came to mind that I had entirely overlooked asking him to swing by and fix the sink in the guest bathroom. Even though a hint of embarrassment lingered regarding my outfit, I decided to brush it aside and embrace the moment with laughter. Ah, yes, do come in. Down the hall, you will find the bathroom waiting to be discovered. As he strolled by, I caught a glimpse of him pausing for just a heartbeat, his eyes dancing toward me before darting away in a flash. It could have been just a figment of my mind, but there was a peculiar ambience in the air. As Jason set to work on the sink, I found myself retreating to my closet. Yet, an unusual tension lingered in the air, neither negative nor expected, weaving a subtle thread through the moment. Have you ever experienced that feeling when someone's gaze lingers a bit too long, even though they try to be discreet about it? I first brushed it off as mere overthinking, given that he is my nephew. As I made my way past the bathroom to grab something from the kitchen, Jason suddenly called out, "Hey, Auntie, could you come here for a moment? I find myself in need of some help." As the tale unfolded, the events that followed only deepened my bewilderment. As I stepped into the bathroom, there was Jason, crouched down with his sleeves rolled up, revealing his strong, sun-kissed arms. With a wrench firmly gripped in one hand, he animatedly pointed towards the faucet with the other, as if inviting the world to witness the unfolding tale of plumbing repair. "I hold the conviction that the pipe is stuck," he said, looking up at me with a hint of urgency. "Could you hold this for a moment while I try to loosen it?" With a nod, I leaned in to grasp the faucet. The bathroom was small, and before I knew it, we were almost pressed against each other. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder, there existed a singular figure who embarked on a journey of self-discovery. This individual, with a heart full of dreams and a mind brimming with tales, sought to weave the fabric of their experiences into a tapestry of life. Each step taken was a chapter, each encounter a plot twist, and every moment a chance to share the magic of existence with others. The adventure was just beginning, and the possibilities were endless. I tried to ignore the intimacy of the moment. But the gentle brush of his arm against mine was impossible to overlook as he focused on his task. As I cast my gaze in his direction, that was the moment it caught my eye. Once upon a time, there was a character named Jason. His attention was not entirely consumed by the pipe. His gaze often wandered in my direction, as though he was striving to uncover a deeper meaning. It was a whisper in the air, a fleeting shadow that danced just out of sight. Yet, I felt its presence keenly. All was well, I asked, breaking the silence that enveloped us. He looked at me and for a brief moment showed a hint of hesitation. Prior to grinning, his familiar, easy smile danced alongside my nervous laughter as I sought to ease the palpable tension in the air. So you hold the title of the expert, do you? There was a sense of ease still. I found it impossible to ignore the way his gaze held on for an unusually long time. After a few moments, he finally let go of the pipe and stood up, brushing his hands against his trousers. All finished. It ought to be as good as new, he proclaimed. Gratitude filled my voice as I responded, thank you. In a bid to seem casual, he said, you're a lifesaver. While leaning against the counter, his gaze fixed on me with an enigmatic look. My dear auntie, I must say, I've never laid eyes on you dressed quite like that before. I paused for a heartbeat, warm flooding my cheeks. This, with a nervous chuckle. I tugged at the hem of my miniskirt. It's just a little something I stumbled upon in the back. As I pondered the items in my closet that I planned to part with, Jason held his tongue, a quiet observer in the unfolding moment. He kept his gaze fixed on me, his eyes revealing a depth of feeling that was impossible to decipher. Then he smiled, but this time it carried a weight, as if a deeper understanding had dawned upon him. It suits you, he remarked, his voice softer than it typically was. I found myself speechless, my words tangled and hesitant. Thank you, I guess. Feeling a wave of self-consciousness, I quickly made my way to the bathroom, seeking a moment of solitude to create some space between us. As I stepped out, Jason trailed closely behind Auntie, his footsteps echoing hers. Hold me in. In the dimly lit hallway, I pivoted to confront him, my heart racing with anticipation. Indeed, he paused, as if he were on a quest for the perfect words to convey his thoughts. Have you ever sensed that events unfold for a purpose? What does that mean to you? I inquired, a true sense of bewilderment washing over me. He parted his lips, poised to speak, but then, with a chuckle, he dismissed it, as if the thought had fluttered away like a fleeting whisper. Dismiss my words if you must. Yet the memory of his gaze lingers, as does the inflection of his voice. Remain by my side. Long after he departed that day, I found myself curled up on the couch that night, aimlessly flipping through channels, attempting to dispel the lingering awkwardness from earlier. I repeatedly reassured myself that it was trivial, that I was merely overanalyzing the entire situation. In the end, Jason found himself, once upon a time, in a world woven with the threads of love and connection. There existed a family. Their bonds were strong. Their laughter echoed through the halls, and their stories intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree. Each member brought their own tale, rich with experiences and dreams, creating a tapestry of life that was both vibrant and enduring. Just as I began to settle back into a sense of normalcy, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I leaned over to pick it up, and there it was, a message from Jason. Greetings, dear Auntie. May I pose a question to you? I gazed at the screen, caught in a moment of contemplation, weighing the decision to respond. There was an oddness to the timing that lingered in the air. What could be the reason for his message at this moment? After a moment, I responded, certainly. What thoughts are you carrying? His response came swiftly, and I find myself continually pondering today, and it stood out clearly. It left me in awe, I suppose. A gentle flutter stirred within my stomach. What was he trying to express? My fingers hovered above the keyboard, a moment of reflection washing over me as I considered my reply. In the end, I chose to respond in a balanced manner. As I sifted through the fabric of time, I found myself trying on some old clothes. He got my message right away. I noticed the tiny typing indicator flicker to life, though it seemed to take him a moment to gather his thoughts before replying. Once upon a time, when his message finally reached me, I was taken aback. You appeared to be thriving. My words come from a place of genuine honesty. My eyes were glued to the screen, a wave of disbelief washing over me. My heart quickened. Could this truly be considered a harmless comment? Or worse, is there a more profound meaning behind this? In that moment, I found myself adrift in a sea of emotions, unsure of what to embrace, let alone how to respond. After what felt like a long stretch of time, I finally reply, "Thanks, Jason. Your kind words are truly valued. I hoped this would bring an end to the situation." Though deep down, I sensed it would not, he uttered once more. Today, I found myself grappling with a feeling that I'm not quite sure how to share. Did you really? My breath was caught in my throat, a tightness wrapping around it. As I stepped into treacherous territory, a sense of doubt lingered in my mind. How to find your way through it? Jason was more than just someone I knew. He was my dear nephew. The emotions he thought he was feeling were, in truth, a misinterpretation of his inner landscape. Yet, instead of casting him aside without a second thought, I felt a pause, a flicker of intrigue, or perhaps a wish to spare him from any hurt. As a result, I held back my response, and once again, the typing bubble flickered to life. I took back my earlier words to steer clear of. In a moment thick with tension, a breath escaped, unsteady and trembling, a mix of relief and unease swirling within. I comforted myself with the notion that it was merely a misunderstanding, holding on to the hope that he would eventually move on and that life would return to its usual rhythm. As I placed my phone aside, a feeling washed over me that this was just the beginning of a series of unfolding events. As the dawn broke and I sipped my coffee, still tousled from sleep, a sudden knock at the door sent my heart racing. Surprise was not on my agenda that day. As I swung the door open, there stood Jason, waiting on the other side. With his hands tucked casually in his pockets, he exuded an air of effortless ease. Yet, a distinct shift enveloped him, for the familiar, carefree smile had vanished, replaced by a solemn expression that felt foreign to me. I recognized Jason, making an effort to hide my surprise. What brings you to this place at such an early hour? He stepped in, uninvited, as if the threshold held no power over him. As fate would have it, I found myself nearby and decided to pay a visit. It was a fragile justification. Though Jason lived far from my neighborhood, I chose to hold back from any confrontation with him. Rather than confronting the issue, I quietly shut the door and trailed behind him into the living room. He settled upon the seated on the couch. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. The atmosphere was laden with unspoken tension. "Is everything as it should be?" I asked as I settled into my seat. He looked up at me, his eyes searching mine and reflecting on last night. "I had no intention of bringing you any unease." I let out a soft sigh of relief, glad that he was recognizing the issue at hand. "It is perfectly fine, Jason. Let us cast aside the matter completely." Yet, he shook his head, insisting that he could not simply let it slip away from his mind. As for what I mentioned earlier, I stand by my words. I found myself frozen, caught in a web of uncertainty about how to respond. Such a manner of communication is not befitting for family members. With a careful approach, Jason and I began expressing, "I think there might be a misunderstanding. Your feelings are but a fleeting mirage. It is simply a reality," he interjected, his tone firm yet gentle. "I recognize that it is incorrect. and I have been striving to withstand it. I tried to push it aside, but my mind lingered, captivated by the lingering shadows of the thought. My heart quickened, and a whirlwind of feelings surged within me. Bewilderment, confusion, and a touch of embarrassment. What journey led us to this moment, Jason? I pleaded, my voice trembling. You must put an end to this. You are my dear nephew, and this situation is quite improper. He nodded slowly, his gaze drifting downward, as if lost in a tale only he could see. I see what you mean, though I know it may not be right. I found myself drawn to share my feelings, for holding them back was a source of great anguish for me. For a fleeting instant, a room was shrouded in silence, except for the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall. In that moment, I found myself adrift in a sea of silence, grappling with the weight of uncertainty, pondering whether there was a way to mend this tangled web, or if it was destined to remain beyond repair. In the end, I stood out, feeling the urge to put some space between us. Jason, it is my conviction that you ought to take your leave. We both need a moment to reflect on this. He looked at me, his expression a tapestry woven with regret and longing. Indeed, he murmured gently. Yet, this is far from the last conversation we shall share on this subject. He left without another word, and as the door closed behind him, a wave of relief washed over me, mingled with a lingering anxiety as the evening sun stretched long shadows across the living space. Chamber. As I drew near, my gaze fell upon the edge of an envelope peeking out from beneath the front door, and a tightness gripped my chest. I knew its sender all too well. Even before I reached down to pull it free, I unfolded the paper with trembling fingers, my heart pounding in my ears. The handwriting bore the unmistakable mark of Jason, precise and orderly, as though every word had been chosen with great care. The message conveyed, Auntie, I understand your wish for my departure, and I honor that. Yet I cannot pretend that these feelings are not real. I am not seeking anything. All I ask is for you to grasp that should you desire my withdrawal, I would do so without a moment's pause. On the other hand, if there happens to be even a hint of mutual feelings, please do let me know, as I will be eagerly anticipating your reply. I stood there, staring at the words, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, anger, flattery, and fear all vying for my attention. A cascade of thoughts surged through my imagination. Could he really mean that? Could it be that he is able to? I experienced this feeling, yet a part of me lingered, reluctant to let it go completely. I carefully folded the paper and tucked it away in a hidden away, yet always lingering in thought. I told myself that remaining unresponsive was the best path to take. At turning a blind eye would serve me well. Yet, within the depths of my being, I sensed that this tale was far from over. As the night deepened and I sought the embrace of sleep, my phone buzzed to life once more. Jason was the one who stood out. Jason, I know I mentioned I wouldn't reach out again, but I seek your assurance on whether my message found its way to you. I peered intently at the message, pondering a reply. In the end, I responded affirmatively, acknowledging receipt. But Jason, this cannot continue. His response came without hesitation. This situation is harmful to us both. If that is your wish, I shall stop. I would appreciate your honest feedback. Do you hold even the slightest sentiment for me? With my fingers hovering above the keyboard, I knew that any admission would only deepen the turmoil, and to reject it seemed insincere. In response, I said, Jason, you are my nephew. That's all I can share. Though it was not the answer he sought, it was the sole reply I could offer. As dawn broke, I stepped into the office, a sense of anticipation coursing through me, ready to escape the shadows of what had transpired recently. My work became a refuge, a space where I could immerse myself in my tasks and set aside the burdens of personal matters. As I settled into my desk, sifting through the cascade of emails, an unsettling sensation washed over me, as if it felt as though I was under the watchful gaze of another. I gazed upward and became still, Jason lingered just beyond the office window, his hands tucked firmly in his pockets, a portrait of inner turmoil and determination. What was he up to? I whispered softly, a tightness gripping my chest. I swiftly took my leave and stepped outside before he could arrive and complicate matters further. Jason, what brings you to this place? I asked, striving to keep my demeanor steady. I needed to see you, he said, his voice low but filled with sincerity. Last night, Jason. My inquiry went unanswered. It has been shared before that this situation is not conducive to well-being. We cannot carry on this conversation. Yet you did not deny it, he said, stepping closer. You did not bring out yourself. I experienced a void as I took a step back, my fingers gripping the strap of my bag tightly. This isn't about feelings, Jason. It delves into the essence of right and wrong. Whatever you think this is, you are mistaken. With a heavy sigh, he ran his fingers through his tousled hair. I acknowledge its inherent wrongness. Time and again, I have whispered to myself, yet my emotions remain untamed. His words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Feeling adrift, I decided it was time to take my leave. He called out, defying the weight of the world. He held my arm gently, but with a certain strength, making me pause as I looked down at his hand before locking eyes with him. His face bore a raw vulnerability that tugged at the heart, making it nearly impossible to simply turn and leave. I'm not here to bring chaos to your life or make things more difficult for you, he declared. I seek to understand the potential that lies ahead. If there is none to be found, I shall take my leave. His declaration, you'll never have to see me again, hit me like a thunderclap, leaving me reeling. The thought of him cutting all ties made my heart race with emotion. Yet, I realized that continuing down this path would only lead to more suffering for both Jason and me. I said, my voice trembling, your family, this is all that it can ever be, he declared with a knowing nod. Slowly, his shoulders began to sag as he took a step back, murmuring, all right, I understand. I shall hold my tongue as I take in the unfolding scene. As he walked away, a curious mix of relief and sorrow washed over me, as if this moment signified an ending, allowing us to finally move forward. Yet, as the evening unfolded, a call came through that turned my world upside down. Once upon a time, Jason found himself caught in an unexpected accident. As I stepped into the hospital, his words to me transformed everything. The call arrived in the stillness of the night. As the evening settled in, and I readied myself for the night ahead, a persistent vibration drew my attention to the coffee table. There, glowing on the screen, was the name Jason, beckoning me to discover what awaited within the message. My stomach sank. But it was not Jason on the line. A voice, smooth yet heavy with concern, emerged from Mercy General, delivering the news. Your nephew has been in an accident. He beckons you to join him. A wave of panic washed over me, and without a moment's hesitation, I grabbed my keys and rushed out the door. As I stepped into the hospital, a surge of adrenaline coursed through me. As I stepped through the swinging doors of the my gaze swept across the room until it landed on him. Jason reclined on the bed, a small cut gracing his forehead while his arm rested in a sling. As I drew near, he lifted his gaze, his complexion wan but his eyes still sparkled with that unmistakable fire. What unfolds? I asked. My voice carried a hint of worrying. He bestowed a subtle smile. Is merely a minor clash, Jason, I remarked with a hint of annoyance. Your actions stirred a great deal of worrying within me. He let out a soft chuckle, followed by a fleeting grimace. With a hand pressed against his side, he uttered, I apologize. I found myself at a crossroads, unsure of whom else to reach out to. I let out a sigh, carefully placing a chair beside his bed. I declared, I am here now. How are you faring? Indeed. He nodded, a gentle warmth spreading across his face. Indeed. There is a message I must share with you. Jason. At this moment, he declared, his voice steady, a soothing balm, even as the depth of his eyes revealed a tender fragility. I refrained from reaching out to you solely because of the accident. I reached out because a revelation dawned upon me. A wave of confusion washed over me, leaving me unsure of where this path might lead. What do you represent? As the conversation unfolded, his eyes drifted to his hands, where his fingers fidgeted with the edge of the hospital blanket. A silent dance of anxiety. As I pondered the haunting prospect of my own demise, my mind was enveloped by profound love and the weight of my many missteps, coupled with an urgent wish to hold on to you, Jason. I began to share my thoughts, but he lifted a hand to halt me. To ensure I do not disrupt the flow, permit me to share this thought, he pleaded. I recognize that I've crossed lines, and I despise myself for it. Yet this feeling is not just a passing emotion for me. My feelings for you run deeper than for anyone else, and now I recognize the inappropriateness of it. I find myself powerless to resist. His words hung in the air, heavy and raw. Words escaped me. A part of me longed to offer him comfort, to whisper sweet reassurances that all would be well. Yet another part understood that this was beyond the reach of simple, soothing words. Just as I was about to find the right words, a nurse stepped into the room, breaking the heavy silence that hung in the air. With a courteous yet assertive smile, she declared that visiting hours had come to an end. I rose, a wave of relief washing over me. Yeah, I felt overwhelmed all at once. Take a moment to recharge, Jason. We shall delve into this matter at a later time. He nodded, his gaze steady, as I made my way out and drove home. In the quiet corners of my mind, I frequently found myself wandering back to his words. As I left, I was certain I had chosen wisely. Yet upon my return, an eerie atmosphere enveloped the home, compelling me to reconsider all that I thought I knew. As I drew near, the house whispered secrets in its unnerving silence as I made my way down the driveway. As I stepped inside, I slipped off my shoes and caught sight of a curious little package resting on the kitchen table, adorned with my name, penned in Jason's unmistakable handwriting. With a moment's pause, I stood at the threshold, my hands quivering ever so slightly as I prepared to unveil what lay within. Within, I discovered a letter accompanied by a quaint little photo album. The letter began with, "Auntie, I understand your wish for me to stop reaching out. Yet I feel compelled to share everything, even if this marks our last exchange. Kindly take a moment to explore this and delve into the album. Should you wish for my absence from your life, I shall respect your desires." With great anticipation, I carefully opened the letter, my gaze sweeping over the words within. From the moment I came back, I felt the shift in our connection. At first, it eluded my understanding. I first saw it as mere admiration or reverence. Yet, it slowly revealed that it went beyond those feelings. I understand how this might be perceived, and I have tried to hold back from it. Yet, I find myself unable to proceed with that. Change my feelings. Your unwavering support has been a guiding light in my journey, more than anyone else has ever provided. Your presence during my darkest times has not gone unnoticed, and I deeply appreciate your unwavering concern. I paused, my heart pounding in my chest. The weight of his words was almost too much to bear. Still, I pressed on with the reading. I crafted this album to capture all the things I cherish about you, not in a manner that oversteps boundaries, but as a means to navigate my emotions. You'll find photos of us from family gatherings, moments where you were laughing or just being yourself. I'm sharing this with you because I don't want to keep secrets anymore. I'll respect whatever decision you may but I couldn't let this go. Instead, I set the letter down and opened the album. The photos were familiar. Family barbecues, holiday dinners, and random snapshots I didn't even remember being taken. Each one was accompanied by a small note in Jason's handwriting pointing out details he appreciated, how happy I looked, how kind I was to others, and how much he admired my strength. Tears welled up in my eyes. It was overwhelmingly touching and deeply unsettling. I closed the album and sat there for a long time trying to process everything. Jason wasn't just expressing infatuation, he was laying bare his heart in a way that felt impossible to ignore. What could I do? I refrained from discouraging him, not only because it was morally objectionable, but also because it would jeopardize our family. But completely excluding him seemed as harsh, considering the evident distress he was experiencing. Before I could determine my course of action, my phone buzzed again. Jason sent a message inquiring if I had received the package. He requested confirmation of its receipt and indicated that if I wished for him to leave, I should simply say so, and he would depart by tomorrow. I contemplated Jason's message for what seemed like an eternity, my emotions clashing with my rationality. In an uncontrollable struggle, he had placed the decision squarely in my hands, a choice that could irrevocably affect both our lives and our family. I responded, instructing Jason to visit the following day for a discussion. The next morning he arrived punctually, exhibiting both anxiety and optimism. I welcomed him inside, and we took seats together, situated opposite one another in the living room. The atmosphere was laden with unexpressed sentiments. Jason, I commenced, my tone resolute yet tender. I have perused the letter and examined the album. I recognize the considerable thought and effort you invested, and I cannot deny its emotional impact on me. However, we must establish certain boundaries for both our well-being. He acknowledged my words with a nod, though his demeanor remained cautious. I comprehend. I only required you to be informed. That is all I am aware of regarding my emotions, I stated, leaning forward. I must convey that I love you as family. That is the extent of my feelings. Your emotions towards me stem from appreciation and thankfulness. She's okay, but we must not conflate those sentiments, for an alternative would ultimately be detrimental to both of us. He gazed at his hands, his expression a blend of relief and melancholy. I comprehend, he stated softly. I do not wish to lose you, Auntie. I will endeavor to release this matter. I extended my hand and grasped his, applying a little pressure. You will not lose me, Jason. You need to take some time to figure out what's really going on in your heart. Maybe talk to someone who can help you sort through these feelings. He nodded again, and for the first time in days I saw a flicker of peace in his eyes. We sat there for a while longer, talking about lighter things, his plans for the future, and how he wanted to focus on his career and hobbies. By the time he left, I felt like a weight had been lifted, even if things weren't completely back to normal. Jason kept his. He gave us both some space, focusing on himself and seeking help to work through his emotions. Over time, our relationship returned to something closer to what it had been before, supportive, familial, and unclouded by confusion. It wasn't easy, but we both learned from the experience. I learned the importance of setting boundaries and addressing issues head-on, while Jason found clarity and a sense of self that didn't rely on anyone else looking back. I'm grateful we were able to navigate such a difficult situation without losing the bond that mattered most to family.